Please get ready for a dictation of transcription number 381 and 382 from Sir Kailash Chandra magazine. 5 seconds. Start. I will not go into the details of the agricultural production during the first 2 years of the second plan, but I will refer to some of other salient features. The increase in agricultural production is achieved by a number of schemes including major and medium irrigation, minor irrigation, fertilizers and manures, improved seeds, land development and improved agricultural practices. It is true that so far as major and medium irrigation works are concerned, we have developed a huge potential, but we have not been able to utilize it. We feel very unhappy that large amounts of money should have been spent on the construction of dams and reservoirs, but the water was not being utilized. This question was very carefully examined by the Irrigation and Power Ministry and the Planning Commission. The Irrigation and Power Ministry, which is in administrative charge of the major and medium irrigation schemes, found that the failure to utilize the irrigation potential was due either to the failure to construct main channels or field channels or the lack of incentive for the cultivators to change over from dry to wet farming or for want of training in proper cropping patterns. Action has been taken to provide conditions for the utilization of this potential, and the Planning Commission has agreed to divert some 30 or so crores of rupees during the rest of the plan period for the fuller utilization of this irrigation potential. In the community development areas, the Community Development Ministry has been made responsible for the construction of the field channels and for propagating cropping patterns. In the non-community development areas, the state governments have been charged with the responsibility for utilizing this potential. In fact, I feel very unhappy that this potential should not have been properly utilized. Now, so far as minor irrigation works are concerned, they have done well, and during the first 2 years, they have fulfilled their targets. Improved seed is another important item in the development of agricultural production. There is a little misunderstanding about the seed farms. The scheme of the seed farms is that in each of the community development blocks and the shadow blocks, a nucleus seed farm of 25 acres will be set up. This will produce foundation seed. The foundation seed will have to pass through the registered growers in the first year as well as in the second year. Fertilizers have played a very important role in agricultural production all over the world. Our consumption of fertilizers is very small compared to the progressive countries. It is very low compared to Japan. It is very low compared to China, and it is very low compared to the United States of America. Now, sir, this is a limiting factor. Unfortunately, in the beginning of the plan, we did not fully realize the importance of fertilizers. We should have planned more for factories, and we should have been producing more of fertilizers. In any event, during the period of the shortfall, we should have found more money for the import of fertilizers, but unfortunately, our foreign exchange position being what it is, I am not sure to what extent we shall be able to meet the requirements of fertilizers, and this is going to be a limiting factor in our future agricultural production. Again, sir, land development is another important scheme. Its growth has also been held up on account of the failure to import a sufficient number of tractors. That again is due to the paucity of foreign exchange. Our achievements during the first 2 years of the plan are only 23% of the targets. Part of this low achievement is explainable. Firstly, as the House will remember, the target for agricultural production originally was fixed at 10 million tons. When the targets for 1956 and 1957 were worked out, they were worked out on the basis of 10 million tons. The other day, the Prime Minister made a very significant admission in the Lok Sabha. He said that it was unfortunate that we had not realized the importance of agriculture in our planning. We had not given it a sufficiently important place, and we are now learning it to our cost that our past neglect has been responsible for the stresses and strains in the supply of food. The government must now give a second thought. Agriculture has to be given the first place, and unless agriculture is given the first place, the implementation of the plan will be adversely affected. I have no doubt that fertilizers have to play an important role, and unless we step up the supply of fertilizers, we shall have to face considerable difficulties in increasing our agricultural production. Our potentialities for increasing agricultural production are immense. Our production is one of the lowest in the world, and there is ample scope for increasing production. For that, we do not need the testimony of any foreigner. Our progressive farmers are producing 3 times. I shall now come to the food problem. What is the food problem? Sir, the food problem, stated in very simple terms, is this. In India, even after 32 years of freedom, we are not able to supply our people with adequate quantities of food grains at reasonable prices or at prices which are within their reach. This is the food problem. It appears to be a very simple problem, but actually it is a very complicated problem and a very basic problem, in the sense that food prices constitute the core of our entire price structure, and in a capitalist society where there is freedom of enterprise, the price structure or the price system governs the development of the economy as a whole. Therefore, sir, this problem becomes the basic problem. I do not want to attempt here any analysis of how the rising food prices have the various aspects of our economic life, but one broad fact has to be recognized, that it is due to the failure on the part of the government to tackle this food problem that so many complications have arisen, which we are finding it very difficult to resolve. All these have as their basis the failure of the government to solve the food problem. Now, sir, there are 2 aspects of the food situation to be considered. As has been currently stated by our Honorable Minister of Food and Agriculture, one aspect relates to production and the other aspect relates to distribution or regulation of the resources that are at our disposal. Now, sir, I will take up these 2 aspects separately and show where the government has failed in its responsibility, where the government policies have been wrong policies, or where the government has failed to work out any policy at all. First, I will take the distributive aspect or the regulatory aspect. For this purpose, I will have to go back a little to the developments that have taken place during the last 5 or 6 years. Now, if we follow the developments that have taken place from the year 1980 onwards, we will inevitably come to the conclusion that the record of government has been a remarkably poor record. The government has been groping in the dark. It gets happy like a child whenever there is improvement in the food situation and whenever there is more production. Sir, the bumper crop of 1983 was an extraordinary crop. It was not a normal crop. And after that year, the whole process was reversed. I will not go into details because that will take some time, but it is a fact that soon after that bumper crop of 1983-84, the government started taking steps for putting an end to rationing, for putting an end to procurement, for putting an end to fair price shops, and for doing away with the food grains licensing and procurement order of 1982. Not only that, sir, the government even allowed certain amount of export of food grains. Export of food grains were allowed and zonal restrictions were done away with. The result was that free market was restored. It is true that I recognize that at that particular time, because of the inefficient manner in which the government were running the rationing system, there was a lot of discontent against rationing. So it appeared to be a popular move for which the government got 3 cheers. But it was a blind policy. They were not looking ahead. They were not examining the basic factors in the situation. And the most basic factor in the situation was that our agriculture is on the margin, that a good monsoon may give us food grains whereby the prices may fall, but the next year a little shortage of rainfall may create an acute crisis. So you have to plan out your whole functioning in a manner that you are prepared for emergencies, that you don't wait to receive shocks. You have to plan and prepare for the rainy day. Ultimately, what happened was that after 1953-54, everything was relaxed and free market was restored, and so it went on. Mr. Vice Chairman, I am glad that the Honorable Food Minister had placed the cards very frankly before us. Sir, I do not have much grievance about the manner in which the available food is distributed in the country, but my grievance is that the problem of agriculture has not been properly tackled. For that, sir, I cannot throw the blame on the Minister of Agriculture. As a matter of fact, the blame will have to be thrown on somebody who is responsible for planning all these things in the country. Stop.